What is up, guys? It is Will Sports, and what a finish we just had here as the Vikings defeat the Niners in late in the fourth. It was a 22-17 victory without star wide receiver Justin Jefferson. So this was a crazy ending to the game. Like I said, Brock Purdy, a guy that everyone's been hyping up, a guy that everyone has been giving his just due, his credit, and has been getting put on a pedestal that maybe was a little too much. He threw two crucial interceptions late in this game, back-to-back possessions. The Niners had a chance to win this game. The defense was not good today at all. Kirk Cousins threw for 378. He was 35 of 45. I will get to the Vikings in a minute, but I'm going to start with the Niners. Yeah, the defense didn't play great today, but they still gave Brock Purdy an opportunity at the end of the game two different times to be able to win this game, and he didn't deliver. So I want to start off by saying Brock Purdy is still a very good player, and he's still done a great job running this offense for the Niners, and I still want to give him his credit for that. I don't want to use this game to overreact and make it seem like he's just been a fraud. He's not good. He's overrated. You know, he has deserved all the flowers he's gotten, but I think this is exactly why people were so against putting him in the MVP talk, against saying that he was the top five, quarterback, putting him above star quarterbacks who have proven more because he's playing with great talent. We've seen the last 2 weeks with his back against the wall in situations that weren't necessarily ideal, where guys were banged up or he had to go make a play late in a game, a close game. He didn't deliver it. Now, the Browns game wasn't his fault because he did get them down the field to kick a field goal, and that wasn't his fault that the kicker missed a kick at the end of the game. That's not his fault. But he didn't play good up until that point of the game. He had a really bad game last week against the Browns. He was awful by his standards. And then this week he played great for 3.5 quarters, and then late is where he just completely unraveled. He was throwing some balls that were just very ill-advised, trying to force them into tight windows. And those are things that he's been doing, but he's been able to get away with. Well, today it caught up with him. He was not able to get away with trying to thread the needle late in a game and put the ball in harm's way, and it caught up with him. And, there's a lot of people on Twitter, obviously getting off on this, happy to see it because they have been so critical of Brock Purdy, but he's still a very, solid quarterback, and I think we need to not lose sight of that, but we need to pump the brakes on all the MVP talk and saying that he's a top 5 quarterback. He has proven that at bare minimum he's top 15, and he might be pushing top 10 by the end of the season, depending on how he plays, but he still has a lot to prove, and we haven't seen him in situations where he isn't in a great, spot with a lot of guys around him. He has Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. His team is loaded, so we haven't really seen him in those type of pressurizing situations until these last 2 weeks. But yeah, you can't throw those balls that he threw, and it was very concerning and glaring if you're a Niners fan, because that's not what you want to see at the end of this game. This is a game they should have won handily, but then also to see it end that way with Brock Purdy, who has been a model of consistency for this team, who we have constantly talked about not making mistakes, making those mistakes finally. It's like, hey, we don't like to see that, because that has to make you nervous now if you're a Niners fan, because, hey, in the playoffs, you have to think there's going to be games like this where we have to get down the field late in the game, and it was a pressurizing situation. Can we trust Brock Purdy to throw the football? That's going to be an interesting thing going forward. But I'm still think the Niners are an elite football team. I think this is just a rough midseason stretch. You played back-to-back games. You out in the Midwest after coming off a huge emotional win over the Cowboys. You get all the hype in the world, and then you got to fly out to Cleveland. You got to fly out to Minnesota. It's a tough back-to-back stretch against two, respectable teams. So, you didn't want to lose these games, but if you're the Niners, I don't think it's the end of the world. But I think next week against the Bengals you're gonna have to see Brock Purdy, being safe with the ball, and you're gonna have to see this defense play a lot better, because the defense was just horrible today. I don't know what happened. Jordan Addison had 124 yards receiving. TJ Hawkinson had himself a night. He had 86 yards receiving. And then, like I said, Kirk Cousins threw for 378. And this is a Vikings team that without Justin Jefferson, they should not be able to move the ball at will against you like they did. They also have no run game. So it was just very concerning to see that the back end of this Niners team, the secondary, just didn't look good. They're going to have to figure that thing out because teams will now try to exploit that, I think, going forward, because they see that Minnesota has success against this pass defense. So that's something that you don't want to linger. They have the talent to still be able to turn it around. So it was just a really bad performance though by them. But yeah, the most notable thing is that Brock Purdy turned the ball over late twice. And, I don't think he's going to hang his head, but you have to wonder if this is something that's going to continue to haunt this team going forward. Is this something that's going to carry over, or is it just a one-game thing and they're going to get past it? Because I thought this week they'd win pretty handily. But it's like the Browns game kind of carried over into this. They haven't looked good either of the last 2 weeks. So they got to get it turned around. I do think they will, but not a great performance by the Niners. And I think if you're Kyle Shanahan, you're going to have to be a little more safe in your game plan late in games until Brock Purdy can prove that, hey, I trust you in these situations, because he has to earn that trust. But he's still a good quarterback. Let's not go crazy. Let's not sit here and act like he's trash. Let's not sit here and act like the Niners season's over. Just 2 weeks ago, they killed the Cowboys. I don't want to hear shit from Cowboys fans or anyone who supports the Cowboys saying that they're better than them. If you want to put the Eagles ahead of the Niners now, fair game. They should probably be ahead of them, or should definitely be ahead of them. But the Cowboys, I'm still not ready for that discussion. I want to talk about the Vikings, though. Jordan Addison, like I said, breakout game by him. This was his chance to really shine without Justin Jefferson in the lineup, and he did that. Jordan Addison was a guy coming out of the draft that a lot of people felt like that was a great pick for Minnesota because he was so good at Pitt and at USC. He was a speedster, create separation, just very shifty, very good, he has good ball skills, all of that. So he's a guy that you knew with more opportunities will get better, and now you look at this Minnesota team, they're 3-4. They've won their last 2, and they're in the NFC North where the Lions lost this week, so they're closer to the Lions in the division now. You have to think they have maybe turned their season around. This is the type of game that can really give this franchise some confidence going forward for the rest of the season. And this is a Vikings team this year that has not been good in these close games after a season last year that was filled with them that they were able to win. They were 11-0 in one possession games last year. This year, I think they were 0-3. So getting this win was huge for them, and especially without Justin Jefferson, knowing you're going to get him back. When they get him back, this offense, now that you see what Addison is capable of, what he can do, that at least a passing game between Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, KJ Osborne, and Brandon Powell, who both look pretty solid today, you have to think that this Vikings passing game is going to be something that could be a problem for teams going forward. And Kirk Cousins having a great year. I just think we like to sit here and say he's mid and critique him because of bad performances he's had in prime time before. He was great tonight. He's been great all season. And this is a team, like I said, the Vikings have no run game. Alexander Mattison really just is an ineffective, inefficient rusher, and they're 30th in the league in rushing. So this is a team that really has no running game to lean on. The defense has been suspect all year, and Kirk was down his top receiver, and he still somehow managed to get a win over this Niners team. All the credit in the world to him. And the Vikings, you have to feel very confident. Now, the Lions are still the best team in that division by a good margin, in my opinion. But the Vikings now put themselves in a discussion for a wild card spot. And before the year, I thought this would be a wild card team. So I'm not really surprised by that. But just the way they started the season, it looked bleak. It looked like they were going to have to make a whole bunch of changes. You were hearing about, Kirk Cousins being on the trade market. Are they going to pay Justin Jefferson? If not, are we going to trade him? Are we going to try to shop him? Are we going to try to get rid of Danielle Hunter? All these different guys. And so to win these last 2 games, last week it was against the Bears. It wasn't a great team, but you won. Gave you a little bit of confidence coming into today. Just coming off a win, it has to feel good. And then now you beat one of the best teams in the NFL. I think this is going to soar this team ahead and help them be very effective going forward. Now, their schedule, their next 5 games, they go on the road to face the Packers, they go on the road to face the Falcons, they host the Saints, they go on the road to play the Broncos, and they host the Bears. All 5 of those are winnable games. They have the better quarterback in all 5 of those games, so they could win all those games. And this is a team that can really turn their season around. I don't know when Jefferson's going to be back, but we know Jefferson's the best wide receiver in the league, so he's going to obviously be a big help for them, getting him back. But the confidence of the rest of the team now is huge. And I think if you're the Vikings, you want to keep spreading that ball around and getting other guys involved, though, keeping these guys, feeling confident. And, I think continuing to play with the type of defense they did today. The defense has not been great all year, but today they did a good job against the run. Christian McCaffrey had sort of a down game by his standards. He only had 3 yards per carry. So they did a good job stopping the run. The defensive line played pretty physical. And, they obviously in the back end, they had 2 crucial picks. So this is a Vikings team that's slowly starting to get better as the season progresses. And if you're a Vikings fan, you got to be excited about that combo of Addison and Jefferson when Jefferson gets back, because it looks like now Addison is, after today, you got to think they're going to get him more involved in his offense, because I felt like throughout the season, he hasn't been as involved because of a guy like Justin Jefferson. It's kind of like the Puka Nacua Cooper Kupp situation. It's like Puka was, getting his opportunities and he was thriving. And then Kupp comes back and, you got to figure that out. But they're both so talented that it's not really a problem, in my opinion. It's only a good problem to have, having 2 great receivers, greatly talented receivers like that. So, the Vikings moved to 3-4. Very impressed. In the Niners, as far as them, it's a bad performance, but let's not overreact and act like this team is still not elite. I do think they'll turn it around, and I think Brock Purdy deserves his criticism. He lost his game. He played bad last week. He deserves all that criticism, but let's not devalue all he's done in his time. This is his 2nd career loss as a starter, and I still think that he's earned enough equity for me to believe that he can turn this around and he can play cleaner football than he has the last 2 years. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think down below. And yes, it's been Will Sports. Peace.